Hi everyone and welcome back to Dr. A Talks. My today's guest does not need any introduction. This young spiritual guru's timeless wisdoms and talks has helped innumerable people think deeper and find simple solutions for life's most difficult problems. So here's welcoming the one and only Mr. Gaur Gopaldas. So, sir, heartfelt gratitude for accepting to come on Dr. A Talks, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because I know that it's going to be so interesting and I'm going to learn so much from you. So, here's connect with you. Just waiting for. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Namaste.
Namaste, how are you?
Good, good. I'm doing well, and I hope you're doing well as well. Such a pleasure to be with you for
Pleasure
this
is mine.
conversation.
Pleasure is all mine. So I would like to start with your journey, because I know that you've spoken a lot about the wisdom and providing people with the solutions, or
Hmm.
nudging them towards finding it. But I want to know, how did your journey start? I know you joined a monastery at a very young age of 21. So how
Right.
did that come about?
Yeah. I think when I graduated from engineering college in Pune, College of Engineering, Pune, I studied electrical engineering. And after studying electrical engineering, I got a stint with Hewlett Packard, HP, you know. And as I was working with HP, I found myself to be very decent at my work, good at it, but didn't really love it. You know,
Hmm.
there are people who are good at something, but they don't love it. And then there are people who love something, but are not good at it. Right.
Hmm.
For myself, I found like I was decently good at what I was doing, but wasn't fulfilled and satisfied, you know.
Hmm.
And a large amount of our time is spent at work. A large chunk of our life is going to be spent working at our workplace. So I was thinking to myself, is it fair to do something that I'm good at, to do something that pays me well, but doesn't fulfill me and satisfy me?
Hmm.
In the world today, find over 90% of the people who probably are paid well and are good at what they do, but they don't like what they do. They don't love what they do. Now, when you do something that you don't like, you're not in love with, A, it's not fulfilling. B, you can never achieve excellence in it. And C, it's going to be stressful. It's going to be stressful. Even the slightest provocation can kind of be very stressful to our mind because we're doing something that we don't really love, you know?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that was one of the reasons I thought that I would kind of not just do what I was supposed to do out there at work, but I would do what my heart's calling was, what my passion was. So, number one, my journey began with doing what my passion was and
Hmm.
therefore finding that fulfillment and joy. But number two, I questioned myself, then what is my passion? Right? A
Right.
lot of people can't even figure that out today.
Yeah.
It's so hard for people to figure out what their passion is today.
Yeah.
So I kind of questioned myself, what was my passion? And then the answer that I got from my introspection, and thinking a little deeper, was that uh, everybody works with machines in the technology world. I was
Hmm.
doing my job working with technology. I felt, what if I started working with human beings, people who are behind the technology? Right?
Hmm.
I found that is my calling, working with people than with machines, people than with projects, you know. And the combination of the two, finding my passion, which was now working with people, and also my spiritual calling from inside.
Hmm.
So I combined the
So,
two to join a monastery, yes. Yeah, please, please.
right. So, what were those questions that you asked yourself? Because you said that you questioned yourself. Were there any
Yes,
specific questions? Because, like you said later, that a lot of people are confused. They don't know
correct.
what their life passion is, and what happens then is that they don't enjoy one job, so then they get into some other sector and take up
Absolutely.
another job, and it becomes like a vicious circle. So, are there any
Correct.
specific questions that came to your mind that, or have you now retrospectively thinking, you can
Yes.
share with us what are those questions as to how to achieve or how to understand what is your life's calling?
Yes. Yes. I think number one is it's not an event, it's a journey. And I'm sure, Aditi, you yourself have had that journey from being a doctor to being a model, being a Miss World, being a now a psychologist.
Yes,
What a
absolutely.
I'm sure I would love to hear from you about this as well. I'll say a few things first, but then I would love to hear about your journey as well. How did that shift happen? I mean, what a
My God, it
diverse
was
shift that is, isn't it?
absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, clearing your medicine, getting into modeling and acting, and then a psychologist. Wow.
Yes, yes.
So,
It's
so
been a
I think
fun
us,
journey. Yeah,
yes, I think our stories are similar.
yes. Engineer and doctor in
Engineer
conversation.
and doctor
Both of
both
them not
decided not
practicing.
to fit. Yeah, both decided not to fit in. Actually, trust me, we are practicing. You
Yeah,
know,
of course,
if you
of course.
you,
Not
you are
in
pract
typical, or as
not
you
in the
said in one of
typically.
your interviews, not a
Yes,
conformationist kind of a manner, but
yes,
in many
yes,
ways, both of us are definitely helping humanity, and especially now, given the situation that we are in, I think
yes.
sharing what we have achieved or what inspires us more, or
Correct.
in your case, of course, the wisdom, and in my case, whatever I have learned to share. I think that is in a way serving people, serving humanity. Yeah.
Yes,
So coming to the
yes.
question.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I moved from being an electrical engineer to a lifestyle or a life engineer, and you moved from a doctor being a doctor for thoughts and minds,
Yes.
now as being a psychologist. But yeah, coming to the question you asked about, are there any specific questions that we could ask ourselves in finding that calling, finding that passion? So number one, I really want to say that finding your passion and calling is not an event. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a party,
Hmm.
that it's over and you get what you wanted. No, you get the cake. It's not a wedding that the event is done and it's sorted, you know. It is a journey. So wedding is an event, but marriage is a journey.
Yeah.
Getting admitted in a college is an event. Studying hard and excelling is a journey. So I feel finding our calling, finding our passion is a journey. And I don't think one should rush through it. You can't rush through the most valuable things of your life. You know,
Absolutely.
in a world which is very fast paced and where everybody's like rushing, and is constantly in the hustle and the grind, I find people who are not taking time to really give and attend to these valuable things in life. Valuable things are not done in a rush.
Hmm.
We can't fast forward that journey in our life, right? So that's my first response, that it's a journey and it takes its time, and it's worth taking that time. It's worth the
Hmm.
time. Now, the
Yeah.
questions that we definitely would like to ask ourselves is, I already mentioned that earlier, is number one, am I good at something?
Hmm.
Okay. What's my passion? Am I really good at something? Number two, do I really love it? The intersection of what I'm good at and what I love is kind of more or less goes to say that this is something that my calling is.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
You can be good at something, but if you don't love, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, if you love something and you're not good at it, you can slowly kind of, if you have the element, you can slowly kind of develop it.
Hmm.
Correct.
Hmm.
But if you're excellent, like I don't know if you've read the autobiography of Andre Agassi, it's called Open.
I
You know,
haven't known. Hmm.
oh, and I must tell you, Aditi, this autobiography, Andre Agassi, he played tennis all his life.
Yes.
And wouldn't it be shocking for everyone who's watching us and listening to us today to know that he hated tennis all his life?
Oh my God.
Can you believe this?
Right.
So here's someone who's absolutely good at something,
Hmm.
but didn't like it. It was
Hmm.
painful for him, you know.
Hmm.
So I think the two questions we need to ask is, am I good at it? Do I love it? And out of the two, what's really important is, do I love it? Correct?
Yeah.
Now, if, having found that, there's a possibility that we would have multiple things that we find, not one.
Hmm.
Correct? People may find multiple things that are callings in their mind and their heart. It's like a guy or a girl in trying to find a partner.
Hmm.
So they may see multiple people and may like certain aspects of each. Now, how
Yeah.
does that person choose what questions does he or she ask himself or herself to say, okay, this is the one, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think finding your passion is sometimes is like that. You may like three things or four things after having narrowed it down, but then there's one thing out of those four or five for which your heartbeat stops.
Hmm.
That's like you say, I found the love of my life, you know,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
love of your life need not be perfect.
Yeah.
It's not
Agree.
necessary that it's perfect. Something that you absolutely love and you want to really pursue.
Hmm.
Correct? So the third
Hmm.
question to ask to freeze it, out of the few options that one may narrow things down to, is what is it that is in complete sync
Hmm.
with your soul, right?
Hmm.
And that's why I said it's a journey. It takes time to
Absolutely.
answer these questions, right? The
Yeah.
fourth thing I would say is also consultation.
Hmm.
It's good to ask experts. It's good to talk to people who know us closely. It's
Hmm.
good to open and put up our thoughts for scrutiny, put up what we feel about ourselves and our journey for scrutiny.
So
And if
being
we have,
vulnerable.
yeah, being vulnerable. That's right, being
Yeah. Yeah.
vulnerable. And so when we are vulnerable and we put it up for scrutiny, I think we can then get help in freezing our journey, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I always say we take advice, but sometimes good advice can become noise as well,
Hmm.
you know, where you forget your own voice.
Yeah.
On one extreme, people don't want to take advice at all, and they miss out on good tips. And
Hmm.
the other extreme is people take so much advice that they lose themselves. They can't figure out what to do out of it. So
True.
these are three, four things I would say we should look at. Number one, finding out what you're good at, what I love to do, right? Seeing and taking time to see what among these really resonates with me. And then, of course, to see if I can put it up for, scrutiny with people who are my well-wishers or people who are experts, and
Hmm.
then kind of narrow it down to one or the other. And we may make mistakes, you know.
Obviously.
We
Yeah. Hmm.
may make mistakes and we learn from them, you know. So it's
Right.
fine to make
So
those mistakes and get experience. Yeah.
when you were in that
No,
time,
no,
at
before that, we also want to know your journey, Aditi. What made that
I will
shift?
discuss it, of course, but I'm so curious to know about your journey. My journey, I know. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. I did this and that and everything. Okay, one thing which I would definitely like to share with
Uh-huh.
everybody's who everybody who's joined us is the spiritual part of me, which not many people
Yes.
know. So I've been
Yes.
following Vipassana. I practice Vipassana
Oh,
meditation
wow.
for last 12 years. I
Uh-huh.
go to the center, do the 10-day silent retreat, and I
Wow.
practice meditation every single day. So I do Vipassana, which is my spiritual journey to go within to
Amazing.
find my passion. Because when I was at crossroads, because I was enjoying modeling and acting, of course, but I wasn't getting as intellectually stimulated as I wanted my gray cells to be.
Correct.
And when I had done some work on myself, my ultimate goal is that I want to die with full consciousness, and I want to
Correct.
die with my brain being as sharp as it is today. So if I
Wow.
have to do that, then obviously there, a lot of other angles, a lot of other aspects were there that I needed to work
Yes.
on. One of which is to feed my brain with the food that would then mean that whatever's happening in my life going forward is the way I want it and not the way the life is going to take me. Of course, there will be obstacles, hurdles. However, I will
Correct.
take another route to reach my goal. So that is why I
Yes.
started my work, and that's how I got into psychology and
Wow.
thinking, actions, and behavior. That's the work that I wanted to do. And
Yes.
from the dark place that I was in my life, I
Hmm.
came out of it. And today, when I see people, when I see a person struggling, I want to
Hmm.
help that person. That is a very
Correct.
simple fact. So be it one
Yes.
person or 100 people, I will deliver whatever I'm asked to with equal passion. And that
Wow.
is my calling, which I found, like you said, after doing a lot of work. Having said that, the
Yes.
journey of acting and all, I completely enjoy because I love traveling. I love meeting new people.
Yeah.
I love emoting. So, that journey will continue. However, simultaneously, this is what has been my
Incredible.
little journey into spirituality, into going within, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think I would really want to talk to you. I want to
Okay,
learn
sure.
you as a lot of things. So at that tender age of 21, when you've got this fantastic job,
Mhm.
obviously everybody around you, especially parents and siblings, are
Yes.
happy. You have one sister, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, that's right.
So, yeah, yeah. So the only son who's karta dharta of the family, he's become an engineer. He's got this fantastic job in this multinational company, and suddenly he decides, "This is not my passion. I'm going to take off." How was
Yes.
the reaction of your loved ones, the neighbors, your friends? Were they supportive? Did you have to convince them? Because that is the fear that many people have in their minds, that this is my passion. I don't want to
Yes.
conform to whatever I have. Even if I've educated in a certain line, I want to go and do
Yes.
something else. So how
Correct.
was the
Correct.
journey for you at that? What was your
Yeah.
experience at that time?
Yeah. You can well imagine, Aditi. It wasn't just it wasn't just moving from modeling to psychology or moving from engineering to, let's say being a YouTuber. It was moving from being an engineer to being a monk.
Yes,
Very challenging indeed, because it was like
yes,
really
absolutely.
out of the box,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
really out of the
completely.
box, completely out
Yeah,
of the box.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're kind of doing well in what you're doing, and then suddenly and one night you just run away from home. I ran away
Hmm.
from home.
Hmm. Hmm.
One
Okay.
night you just run away from home in the middle of the night, disappear, you know.
Hmm.
So you can imagine the kind of trauma your parents go through, and you
Yeah.
can imagine the kind of uncertainty, the anxiety, the pain that they go through. So I
Hmm.
always apologize for that to my parents, that I put them through all of this. But I think anybody who wants to really follow the calling of their heart is
Hmm.
going to have to face opposition, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially, especially when the calling of your heart doesn't fit into the social standards of success.
Right.
There are the social standards of success. You have to be a B, C, X, Y, Z to be able to socially acceptable. इसको हम
Yeah.
success बोलते हैं, नहीं?
Hmm. Hmm.
This is the person who's successful. So if you're doing something which is so out of sync with that, you're going to obviously face a lot of opposition and challenges. Now, the
Hmm.
one thing that I asked myself is, do you want to really be true to yourself? You know,
Hmm.
it's so important to be true to your own self and to be very authentic.
Yeah.
What's happening in the world today is in trying to conform with and in trying to give in to the expectations of everybody around us, including family.
Hmm.
We lose ourselves. We
Yes.
start living a very unauthentic life, correct? So I asked myself this question that, hey, although I absolutely loved my family, absolutely understood and empathized with them, I knew that they're not going to have to live my life. My
Hmm.
sister would move on, getting married, settled down. She would have her life. My parents would move on in life. There's a time in their life, correct? And I have my life. And if I just give in to what they want for me, I think it is going to be a big injustice to my own life.
Hmm.
So obviously, when I decided to do that, you know how it is. There is it
So
not
you
every
did discuss with them and you thought that there was opposition. So you just said, that's it, I'm taking off and I'll return when I'm ready to. Was that what happened? So you
I
eloped
did.
pretty much with yourself.
I did in one sense, I did in one sense, and I think it was an extreme step, you know.
Hmm.
I do not
Yeah.
recommend that anybody takes extreme steps like these.
Hmm.
I do say that it was an extreme step for sure. But it's like
Hmm.
sometimes when a guy and a girl elope, the love of your life is so intense.
Yes.
When the love of your life is so intense that you're willing to
Yes.
stand up for it and
Hmm.
stand up against anyone for it, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's where kind of it's like burning in you when the
Yeah.
fire when the fire within you is burning more than the fire outside of you. You make decisions like these.
Absolutely.
Right? So I
Absolutely.
definitely don't recommend extreme steps like that. And also, I have to say one more thing there, that when we talk about following our calling and following our passion, there's also one element to it, which is the real side of life. And the real side of life is sometimes there are real life situations, family needs, terminally
Yeah.
ill parents at home, or mortgages to be cleared off. And families have done so much for us lovingly, correct? So
Responsibilities towards.
yes. So I think when we are talking about that responsibility, that sense of responsibility, we are also saying that, hey, look, you don't give up on your passion, but postpone your passion if the possibility is. So you could
Or
kind of also
perhaps in some
follow
cases you
it
can do
side
it
by side,
parallelly. Yeah, you
parallelly.
can do
That
it
that was my
parallelly.
next point. That was my next point.
Yes.
When I said postpone, I always say that if you do it side by side,
Mm.
that you are satisfied because you're chasing it, and also you are kind of excelling in it. There's a
Mm.
possibility that your responsibility at one point of time kind of goes into the background. Now your passion can become your mainstream career at that point of time. So for me, of course, I took that step and just moved out and joined the monastery. But it took a while for them to accept it. It took a while for
Yes.
them to accept, excuse me, in Indian families, a lot of parents actually look at what makes their children happy, you know.
True.
So
Because that's what
initially,
ultimately parents
yes,
want.
yes, they want that they're happy. So initially, it kind of doesn't register with them,
Mm.
but once it slowly starts sinking in and they see that you're truly satisfied, then they accept it. And also, when you do well at it, after all,
Mm.
parents look at the security of their children and how well they are doing in what they do. So when they see that you kind of excel in it, I think that's when slowly acceptance begins. But yes, it was challenging indeed. Everything wasn't an
So,
easy
and
thing in the beginning.
how did you find the monastery? Did you do a little bit of window shopping to figure out what is it that suits you, which place, ashram or a guru or
Yes,
cave, or did you do that? Because it's very difficult to know before you enter a monastery to know whether this is something that you want to. And I'm sure life was tough over there. It's not going to be bed of roses. So how was
correct.
that part of your life?
Yes. So in trying to explore uh, which path would I take, right? When I said earlier that I would really want to work with people more than with machines, correct?
Hmm.
And there's so many ways you can work with people. Like you chose psychology, correct? People may
Yeah.
be, some may choose behavioral science. So many aspects of human behavior, human nature can be explored.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought I would look into ancient wisdom, right?
Hmm.
To see what our ancient wisdom has to say in dealing with human life and with the human mind, with the human potential, you know.
Hmm.
So in doing so, obviously there were so many paths, correct? So I had to look at what my spiritual calling was as well. What really kind of was in tune with what I wanted in my spiritual calling. So there were so many paths, and I was looking at them obviously. And
Hmm.
then I chose to come to the monastery in Mumbai here, in south of Mumbai where I live now. And the reason I chose this was I found monks were very highly educated people here. They didn't
Hmm.
just talk sentiment, they didn't just talk faith, they didn't
Hmm.
just talk religion,
Hmm.
they didn't just have the cultist kind of a side to them, you know.
Hmm.
They were intelligent, smart people. Today in the monastery, we have 30 guys from IIT Mumbai who are monks.
Hmm.
That's a large number in one place when you have 30
Huge.
guys who are monks, you see.
Yeah.
So when you have very reasonable people who are exploring this path, that was one thing that I felt that, okay, here's something that let me at least give it a thought. Here's
Hmm.
somewhere where people have kind of, thoughtful people have gathered. So
Hmm.
initially I started coming and exploring, asking my questions. When you come from an engineering background, you keep asking a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
Everything's a why.
Yeah.
Why this
The
one? Why?
scientific, the analytical mind kind of
Yeah.
always comes into the picture.
Yes, the analytical mind, indeed. So I kept asking my questions, and I kind of found that there was no beating around the bush answers. You know,
Hmm.
there wasn't dogma that accept it because I say it. There wasn't some sentiment, some hocus pocus kind of stuff there. I found a
Hmm.
lot of reasoning. I
Hmm.
found a lot of rationality. in the answers that I received. So that's how I kind of narrowed my path down to being where I am today. Yes.
Mhm. So there was a part of your life that you spent in studying ancient wisdom. And what about going within? Because you've spoken about it many times that going within is
Yes.
very crucial. So did you spend large part of it also taking the wisdom from external sources,
Yes.
getting it within you and making it part of you?
Yeah.
How were your days? What was the day like in monastery?
Yes. Yes. I think uh, I think internalizing and working on yourself internally is integral with ancient wisdom. Like you cannot have ancient wisdom that tells you just look at the world outside, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of integrated within the ancient wisdom that you have to work on your inner self and you have to look at your inside world. So I often say there are 5 stages, right? Number one is browse through, correct?
Mm.
Information. So whether it's
Mm.
internet, whether it's books, whether it's our ancient epics, you browse through, you read, correct? Number two is you study. You don't just browse
Mm.
through that. You study, which is you try to understand what the import is. You try to read between the lines, correct?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And then number three, after you've kind of studied it, right? You browse through it, you study, then you consult, right? You consult that, okay, this is my understanding from it. There are
Mm.
experts in that particular field. You consult from them. What do you think about it? Okay. Now, once you consult it, that is when you apply it to your life.
Mm.
Because once you've narrowed down, here's what I read, here's what I understood, here's what the experts who've experienced say.
Mm.
Now's the time that I need to apply it in my life. And I often say, makeup, and knowledge are very
Mm.
similar. You know,
Mm.
both change us only when applied. Makeup changes the way
Well, very
make
well said.
makeup changes the way we look, and and wisdom and knowledge changes the way we live. Correct. So I think it was definitely integrated with that. So our normal day would be like we would be up at around 4, half 4 in the morning, which is true even now, right? And then after a shower, we would gather in our place of prayer together, where we would have our prayers, we would have our mantra meditation sessions, then
Mm.
which is about a good 2 to 3 hours, that's the time to work on yourself again, going internal in your meditation. Then there would be discussion sessions where there would be a lot of churning of the wisdom that we've read and what we're trying to understand. And
Mm.
then you would also have to spend some time with yourself. When you're with people and you're trying to do things with people, you can get lost in that as well.
Yeah.
There's a great need to find that time for yourself as well. Like I
Mm.
often say, one of my favorite quotes is that silence is not empty, you know, it's full of answers. So,
Yes.
so sometimes you just have to kind of be to yourself. And it is in that silence, it is in that introspection, it is in that going deep, it is in
Mm.
that kind of questioning, it is in that tuning to your conscience that a lot is revealed, and it kind of sinks in. And that's
Mm.
what's called realization then. So, yeah, that's what a usual day is. Morning
Mm.
session, then also time to yourself. And then the other part of my day is sharing it with others.
Mm.
So, like you said, when you found benefit, I loved what you said. That there were some times in your life where there were difficult times and you found how things helped you and you wanted to share.
Yeah.
So same with wisdom, same with knowledge, same with your practices. When you something benefits you, something that really
Mm.
uplifts you, then you want to share it with others as
You
well.
want
So
to.
that's a part of your day as well. Yeah.
So when did that happen with you? You stayed there for 15 years. What was that
Yeah.
time when you said that, okay, now I think this is it for me. I want to go out and start helping the world, that like
Correct.
around, share whatever you've learned, share the wisdom that you had garnered, the realization that you
Yeah.
had, experienced. How
Yes.
did that come about? Why 15 years? Why not at 11th year? Or what was the journey at that time that you said, now,
Yes.
I'm good. I'm good to go.
Yes. 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 I think, yeah, it's been a good 25 years, in fact, Aditi, in the monastery now. So it's been spending 25 years here, living here for 25 years. And I feel you can never pour from an empty jug.
Absolutely.
You know, your jug has to be full in order to give it out. So the purpose may be to give, share, and serve and help. But that purpose is only fulfilled when you are very full. Right?
Yeah.
You can only put an oxygen mask on somebody else if the oxygen mask is on your face and on a flight. Right?
Yeah.
So I feel it is very, very important and crucial that we really work on ourselves. For me, my life is a journey. And in my journey of life, I really want to live my life in a very holistic, in a very fulfilled way. And then the outcome of that, when it's filled up to the brim, it's going to spill over. You can't contain yourself. You can't contain your joy. You can't contain how you really felt benefited out of it. You can't really contain that. My experience has been so amazing. I want to give it. Like I often say, when I was a young boy, I had a pimple on my face. I mean, who does it? I was in school और एक pimple आ गया. So
And your life then revolves around that pimple.
Yes, it does.
One blemish, yeah.
So then I was thinking, hey, wait a minute. अब ये pimple का क्या करूं मैं? I have a pimple on my face. So I went to school one day and one of my friends said, अरे तेरे face पे pimple है? I said, नया ज्ञान क्या दे रहा है? जानता हूं मैं. I know it. You telling me I have a pimple? सवेरे आईने में देख के आया मैं.
Already I know it.
I know it, right? So I have a pimple on my face. So he told me, look, I have a solution. I said, and what's the solution? He said, well, the solution is you should apply Fair and Lovely. I said, Fair and Lovely, man. And young boy said, you're telling that I should apply a girl's cream? I'm a guy. You want me to apply a girl's cream? He said, look, don't talk about gender and all of that stuff. This cream, maybe girls may use this cream and it may not be a men's cream, but kaam karta hai bhai, he's telling me. And then I said, but why? Why Fair and Lovely? And then he started methodically explaining to me how the ingredients in Fair and Lovely actually work on the pimple. Correct. So that was step one, hearing about a methodical explanation of how it works. Right? Now, step number two was, a couple of days later, I came to school and I saw, hey, this one guy had a pimple, it's gone. मैंने पूछा क्या किया? Fair and Lovely लगाया. I saw a third guy, his pimple had gone. I said, क्या किया? He said, किसी को बोलना मत. Fair and Lovely लगाया. So that was step two, observation. Step one was hearing how it works. Step two was observing that it works. The pimple had gone for some guys, right? Now, step three was to actually now, live by what I'd heard and observed. Suna bhi hai, dekha bhi hai. Now live by it, which means I have to buy it and apply it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I didn't have to buy it. You know why? Because my
sister
mom and my sister used it. But I was a little bit apprehensive in the night when they would go to bed. Then I would very secretly go pull out the Fair and Lovely and very secretly apply it, not to be seen as using the screen. And guess what? 1 week, the pimple wasn't gone. 2 weeks, the pimple wasn't gone. 3 weeks, the pimple wasn't gone. I went to that guy and said, "तूने मुझे बोला था Fair and Lovely की महिमा सुनाई थी? All this glories of Fair and Lovely, and it hasn't worked." He said, "Look, man, everything takes time. Keep going." Correct? So I kept going, and that brought me to the fourth stage, which was experience, first-hand experience. My pimple was gone. And guess what? Step 5 was, anytime anybody had a pimple, you know what I said? Fair and Lovely lagao. I started sharing with others what
Yeah.
I experienced firsthand. I call it the HOLES formula. It's an acronym. HOLES.
Hmm.
H
Hmm.
stands for hearing. O
Hmm.
stands for observing. L
Hmm.
stands for living by it.
Hmm.
E stands from the experience once you live by it.
Hmm.
And then once you experience, Aditi, sharing is just a consequence. Like you said,
Yes.
I
It just,
experienced it.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to
Hmm.
share it. So yes,
So what
holes.
was the plan? What happened when you decided that okay, now I want to go out there and I want to start sharing? How did you get into that mode? Because to reach where you have with millions and millions of views and millions of invitations that you get to go everywhere, it started with a baby step. It started with a
Yes.
small step. So how were the steps? Did you plan it? Did the analytical mind, did the engineering mind help you there? Or did
Yeah.
you just go with the flow to say, let me be River Ganga, which example you've given in a couple of interviews. So
Yes.
how
Yes.
was it?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Your questions are spot on. These are these are the questions of a psychologist. A psychologist is
No,
not going to
I
let you go
actually, I
easy.
did, I did study for every
Of
conversation that
course.
I have, because I don't want
Yes.
to ask the same questions which have
Yes.
been asked time and again, because my
Correct.
experience is that, I've already answered this question 100 times. I'm bored of answering it. And I didn't want you to get bored having a conversation with me. So I had to rack my brains to just go through your interviews, to study a little
Yeah.
bit about what you've spoken already and not speak about the same thing again.
Oh, thank
So
you.
that is
Thank
why
you.
the questions were, I mean, I
That's
come from that.
that's so good of you and so professional and smart of you to really do all the homework. It's hard work.
My friends call me a nerd, so I'm a born nerd and I love it. I love being a nerd. So that's a given now in my case. Yeah.
Uh,
So the reason I ask you is because
yeah.
today, if you see the world, the way the world is
Yes.
going, and the fact that you have garnered so many millions of views and people enjoy listening to you, because of course you're really funny. There is a lot of humor in your
Yeah.
talks and your speeches. So that of course is a great connect, but it started somewhere. So I want
Yes.
to know, because 0 to 1 is always the most difficult journey. 1 to 100 is not that difficult, but 0 to 1, that's a
Correct.
crucial point. And for people
Yes.
who are with us, I want them
Yes.
to get inspired, because
Absolutely.
persistence plays a very big role later
Yes.
on, of
Yes.
course. So I want
Yes.
to hear from you how your journey was.
Yes. The engineer breaking down the steps.
Yes.
Yes. So I think step one, I already mentioned that it was to first figure out what was the love of my life and what I was good at, right?
Hmm.
So uh, speaking, talking, sharing, analyzing was natural, correct? So there
Hmm.
was an element in there. So I,
So
I
even as
also
a
mentioned,
child, you were that extroverted person who would go out on stage and take part in debates, or how was it? Was that
yes,
inherently part of you?
yes, I was
Hmm.
a person who went up on stage. Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was a person who went up on stage, whether it was a debate, whether it was a mono act, or whether it
Hmm.
was, a recitation of a poem when I was in primary school. I,
Hmm.
I, I was okay with doing that.
Hmm.
It's like in the disc, I don't know if you've studied Rob, I'm sure you must have, Robert Rom's disc model of personality types. And
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
disc model, it's the I types. I
Yeah.
types are the people who go and they kind of, they're extrovert and they light up the place by their lightheartedness and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. So I think
Yeah.
that was something that came natural. So,
Hmm.
which is why I feel that we need to look for what is that element in us. If you're going to
Hmm.
start something that you don't have in you, I mean, imagine if
Yeah.
I really want to be a singer, but I don't have the element in me.
Hmm.
You'll go through your entire life and you can do that as a hobby, but
Hmm.
if you're going to take that as something that you make your mainstream thing, well, life will pass and you may never be able to reach something. So now
True.
step one obviously is to see what that element is, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that element needs your own introspection, and that element also needs
Hmm.
people around you to kind of testify that yes, you have it in you, right? So also to be
Yeah.
surrounded.
To be a self-proclaimed.
नहीं तो हम अपने ही
So
भ्रम में
that's what
रहेंगे.
I always say. That work with your strengths, don't work with your
Yeah,
weaknesses. You
yeah,
can play with your weaknesses if you wish, but always
correct.
work with your strengths. Very, very
True,
crucial. Yes.
true,
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So I thought I needed to others also. You need others to testify that, surely, correct? So
Mm.
then you
Yeah.
say, yeah, okay, this is true. I can do it. Otherwise, I'm in my own illusion thinking I can do it. You know. So that's number one, finding that element, right? Now, number two is starting to work on that element. Correct?
Mm.
Now, let's say if I think I'm a speaker, I need to start talking up about it. I need to start working on it. And to start
Mm.
working on it would mean to see what are those skills I need, you know,
Mm.
what are those things I need to either learn or improvise or add on to what
Mm.
I'm doing. For some
Mm.
people, it may be learning. That element needs to
Mm.
be developed. For some people,
Yeah.
it may be improvising. They may already have a
Mm.
lot and they need to improvise it, you know.
Mm.
And for some people, after improvising, they may be learning newer things in that field to really kind of, refine, hone the quality of what they're doing. Correct.
Yeah.
So that's step two. That's step two,
Mm.
to look at, okay, if this is X is what I find that is my element, then how do I now either either develop that X, improvise that X, or learn for that X so that X gets better. Correct?
Mm.
Number
Mm.
three would be to sorry, to practice it. Right?
Mm.
So now that you say, okay, I have it in me, I'm learning, I'm improvising, but now it's the time to actually do it. And
Mm.
when we are talking about doing it, we don't want to do it waiting for the big opportunities to come. You know,
Yeah.
we don't want to wait for the big opportunities to come.
Mm.
You don't, opportunities should be taken, whatever
Mm.
magnitude they may be of, because
Yeah.
it gives you the platform, it gives you the ability
Mm.
to practice what you have learned, to practice what you have
Mm.
developed, to practice
Mm.
what you think you really want to get great at, you know.
Mm.
So that's number three, you know, to actually grab those opportunities and start developing what you're doing. Now,
Mm.
when you do that, excellence is the result of the small things that are done rightly and consistently over a long period of time. The small
Absolutely.
things done rightly and consistently pay a
Mm.
hefty reward over a long period of time. Like Pablo Picasso, he was
Mm.
the great artist, was once
Mm.
walking on a street and a lady came up to him and said, "Hey, Pablo, can you make a pencil sketch of mine?" He said, "Okay." He took a piece of paper and within a jiffy, less than 30 seconds, he made a pencil sketch. And
Mm.
he said, $30,000, madam. He said, "Hey, Pablo, you made it in less than 30 seconds. What are you charging $30,000 for?"
Mm.
He said, "Look, madam, the $30,000 are not for making it in less than 30 seconds. The $30,000 are for the 30 years of practice to be able to make it
Exactly.
in less than 30 seconds. You know?
Absolutely.
So it's the
Yeah.
small things done rightly,
Mm.
consistently, over a
Mm.
long period of time that actually
Mm.
become, excellence. And then
Mm.
once you reach that level of excellence, automatically there is visibility, you know.
Mm.
There is
Yeah.
visibility because people are going to see it. People are going to
Mm.
see that here's something of value. People don't
Mm.
want something sloppy. People want something of value in whatever area. You know, they want
Mm.
to pay for, they want to
Mm.
spend their time on something that is of value. Now, one thing in this step, so step number one, identify your element, right? And
Mm.
have others testify it, right?
Mm.
uh, Step number two, after you have identified that element, is to develop it, improvise it, refine it, learn from new things in it. Step number three is to grab opportunities, right, and start really doing the small things rightly to gain that
Mm.
visibility. And step number four is, once you are there, never forget what you started for, because it's so easy to get carried away, you know. It's so easy to get carried away, become commercial. It's so easy to be carried away and lose your internal radar is completely out of sync with your purpose.
Of yeah.
You know?
And that's what
So
I say, that many people can handle failure well, but very few people can handle success well.
yeah, yeah, indeed.
It's very tough to handle
Yeah,
success.
yeah.
You kind of
So
lose the grounding.
correct,
Mm.
correct. So I feel that's step number four. That
Mm.
never lose track of your purpose. Why you
Mm.
started. Because if
Mm.
you
Mm.
lose track of your purpose, you lose the impact.
True.
Commercialism doesn't make that impact.
Yeah.
It is the genuineness of your intent, the genuineness of who you are, that reaches out to the hearts of people, whatever we do. So
Yeah.
one thing is for sure, one thing is for sure. I feel in whatever area of life, let's not think about becoming successful.
Mm.
Let's think about becoming the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we try to be the best version of ourselves, success will be a consequence.
Yeah.
Let's not make success the goal. Let's
Mm.
make being the best version of ourselves the goal.
Mm.
And the
Yeah.
consequence should be success. The problem is we make something that is a consequence as the goal.
Mm.
Success in what we do should be a consequence.
Yeah.
Our goal should be to
Very true.
really be the
Yeah.
best version of ourselves. Yeah.
Mm.
So those are a
Now,
couple of
throughout
steps. Yeah.
this, throughout this, when you were doing all this, did you ever falter? Did you wonder if you are on the right path? Because when even if you are 100% convinced, there might be somebody who crosses your path who perhaps mentions something very lightly, even without thinking. But that
Correct.
kind of might make you wonder whether you're doing it right, whether you are on the right. Did you ever go through that kind of a process since you began? From
Yes.
being an engineer to a monk, did that
Yes.
happen? And if it did, how did you handle it? Because there
Correct.
are naysayers around us all the
Oh,
time. We have to
yes.
tackle them. So what is
Yes.
your response to that? How to handle
Yeah.
naysayers?
माझ्या मते आपण मराठी पण बोलता ना?
हो, मी महाराष्ट्राच आहे.
नावावरूनच
मराठी
ओळखलं मी.
हिंदी गुजराती.
म्हणून ते मराठीत म्हणतात ना, निंदकाचे घर असावे शेजारी.
हो.
When you have
Yeah.
people who are critics around you, those critics are your best well-wishers. Whether they do it with the right intention or they don't do it with the right intention. Correct? Whether it's with the right intention, they may do to malign you. They may do it to malign you. They may do it to pull you down, or they may do it to being your genuine well-wishers. The fact of the matter is, people who have only seen a first rank in their life don't know how to handle life. People who only seen successes and praises without being criticized and failures don't know how to really handle real life. Such people are the ones who become very affected mentally when life really throws challenges and when life comes in its real form in front of them.
Yeah.
जिसको हमेशा सब yes ही मिला है life में, someone who's only received a yes for everything gets a sense of entitlement. Your parents can say yes, your friends can say yes. Life is not going to say yes to you all the time. So I feel it would be very haughty and arrogant on my part to say that I didn't go through those low moments. And any monk, if any spiritual leader says that they don't go through those moments, I hate saying it, but they're lying. They are lying. Spirituality is not about not feeling low.
Yeah.
Spirituality is the science of lifting yourself up when you feel low.
Absolutely.
So yes, indeed, there were those moments even in my journey, in my life, where people said things or people did things where, you kind of question yourself.
Yeah.
You kind of question yourself, is this the way? Is this the path? Is this the way I should? Like even my social media journey, Aditi. You can imagine I'm a monk, right? For my social media journey began like 3.5 years back, about 3.5, 4 years now, and before that, I was the person who just lived in the monastery. I went to a couple of colleges and universities and shared that to a group of small group of students. But I lived a life which was very much to myself, right? And here's a social media journey where you're going to have to come out online and, you're going to be on the camera, you're going to be on stages, you're going to have thousands of people watching you,
Yeah.
At a point of time, you question that journey. Is this what monks do? Is this the life of a monk? Shouldn't a monk just be contented living in an ashram, meditating, and going deep within himself or herself if there is a monk living in a monastery? Ladies are monks as well, himself or herself. Shouldn't they be contented? So there were those questions I had that I had to answer personally for myself. There were critics who raised those questions, and there are people today, even today, who raised those questions on my journey. That being a monk, what are you doing on Instagram? What are you doing
There are
on
trolls
Instagram?
everywhere.
that
I mean,
people are
being
going to,
online means you have to,
yes,
face the trolls.
you have to face
Yeah.
the flag, of course.
Yeah.
All of us face the flag. But people are going to
Mm.
question that. Hey, is this what you're meant to do? Right.
Mm.
So there are going to be people, and whenever I receive this, there's a couple of
Mm.
things I ask myself. You know, number one, is there an element of truth in what they are saying?
Mm.
If there is an element of truth in what they're saying, I'm so glad that it came to me. Correct?
Mm.
Because that
Mm.
means I have the scope to improve. Right?
Mm.
So which
Mm.
is why I need to be very conscientious, very genuine, to
Mm.
not just reject what people say, saying it's all criticism or it's envy
Yeah.
or it's insecurity. No. Let me
Mm.
see if there is an element of truth, whatever the intention may be. किसी भी
Mm.
मोटिव से वो लोग बोल रहे हो, लेकिन मेरे लिए मैं देखता हूँ कि इसमें सच्चाई है क्या? अगर
Mm.
सच्चाई है, तो I should work
Mm.
on it. If there is no
Mm.
element of truth,
Mm.
and I see that it's just kind of unnecessary, like how the world is today. People
Yeah.
could keep social media. People have their opinions to make. They have something to say about everything, right?
Everybody.
About
Everything and
everybody
everything.
and everything under the sun, correct?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so, so there are going to be people who are going to say things for no reason, and there's no
Mm.
element of truth to it. So,
Mm.
so then you know what I look at it as? I look at it as an opportunity to practice humility. Trust
Mm.
me, when you are up there and when people adore you and people admire you and
Mm.
people follow you and people want a piece of you,
Yeah.
then it's so easy for that image, that glamour, you know,
Mm.
to get into the head. You know?
Yeah.
So when people criticize you, I feel it's so important that you also see that okay, इसमें सच नहीं है, लेकिन ये मुझे
Mm.
थोड़ा grounded रखने के लिए, you know.
Mm.
Maybe God
Mm.
has made this arrangement for me to be grounded and humble. In fact, I have
Mm.
a folder on my phone, in my photos folder. I have an album
Mm.
on my phone,
Mm.
which is
Mm.
entitled Criticism. And
Huh.
there are some comments which are like strong comments people have written.
Huh.
I've taken screenshots and saved them. And
Wow.
there are
It's literally
moments,
like keep your enemies closer, that saying
yes,
that keep your enemies
निंदकाचे
closer,
घर
make your
असावे शेजारी. So there are times when I open that and
mm.
look at it because then
Mm.
that gives me a sense of being grounded
Mm.
and not allow my ego to be inflated. And at the
Mm.
same time, I also keep realigning my radar with my purpose. So
Mm.
yes,
Mm.
there have been
And how
moments and there are
often
still
do you
moments like that.
realign? How often do
Pardon?
you realign the wheels? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Do you have a schedule to say that, okay, now, because like now we are out there on social media talking
Correct.
constantly.
Correct.
You're having to talk every single day, and with the adulation
Yes.
that comes into you, and the demand that
Yes.
is there of your time,
Correct.
what is your schedule like to stay grounded, to stay with your truth?
Yes.
How
Yes.
do you do that?
Yes. So, in terms of the frequency of uh, uh, aligning ourselves, whether it's daily, weekly, fortnightly,
Mm.
for me, I
Mm.
definitely recommend that we realign ourselves on a daily basis. You
Mm.
know, so and
Mm.
that's not just true because we are on social media. That's true for everybody in whatever they do.
Everybody.
You
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
and the reason why we need to constantly keep realigning ourselves with who we are and what we are meant to do is because the more we are in tune with, in harmony with, in sync with who we are, we're very effective in what we do, and we're extremely
Mm.
satisfied in what we do
Mm.
as well. So there are several ways we can do it. One is meditation, obviously, where you deeply, connect to yourself. Second is introspection and journaling, where you
Mm.
actually write down, you vent out
Mm.
what is in your mind, and there's no
Mm.
censoring, there's no editing. We don't
Yeah.
edit anything. We just let it flow. Let our thoughts
Mm.
flow and we write everything down. And in writing this down, what we're seeing is we're actually looking at a mind map of ourselves on paper.
True.
We're looking at a mind
Mm.
map of ourselves and we're seeing what is not in harmony, what is in harmony, correct?
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think which is precisely why self-introspection is a part of life and better that we do daily. Gratitude should be a part of our life daily.
Absolutely.
I just so feel so empowered when I on a daily basis begin my morning with gratitude and
Mm.
end my day with gratitude every single day.
Mm.
And it
Mm.
just makes me feel completely in tune with, in line with what I want to do. So yes, introspection, journaling, meditation can be things that we do. But yes, people may not be able to do it on a daily basis for some people. Not a
Yeah.
problem. Decide for you what is the best. Correct? But for me, yes, I do it daily, every day.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And I liked very much the fact that you shared about gratitude, because that's exactly what I do. The minute I sit up on bed, I just fold my hands and I
Yes.
thank whatever two, three things that come to my mind.
Yes.
And that literally has changed my life. Now, coming to the spiritual, the monk that you are, and
Yeah.
many people ask me, because I'm a psychologist, that, oh, then you must never be feeling bad, or you must
Mm-hmm.
never feel pain. And I'm
Correct.
like, no, if I don't feel that, then I'm not a human being. I do feel
Yes.
pain. I do feel
Yes.
sad at times. I do feel anxiety. I
Correct.
just know how to get out of it. So, but
Absolutely.
given that you are a monk and spiritually very, very extremely evolved, how do you deal with it? Do you immediately catch the feeling of sadness or
Mm-hmm.
desolation or any of the negative emotions that we
Yes.
human beings face? Are
Yes.
you able to catch it immediately, or does it not occur in your senses at all? Have you reached that stage? Is there a stage like that that exists, being a human, being in a
Yeah.
human form?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in order to not go through these negativities that you're mentioning, you probably have to be an yogi in the Himalayan caves without interacting with anybody in the world. You know, any
Yeah.
spiritual leader who says I don't feel angry,
Hmm.
just take their ashram's property away. फिर देखते हैं क्या ये लोग करते हैं
फिर देखेंगे.
फिर देखेंगे कितना गुस्सा होता है कितनी शांति रखते हैं कोर्ट में जाते हैं कि अहिंसा प्रैक्टिस करते हैं फिर देखते हैं
Correct.
बड़ी बड़ी बातें तो सब लोग करते हैं नहीं पुन्हा एकदा मराठीत
Absolutely.
बोलतो मराठीत
हाँ.
एक म्हण आहे उचलली
हाँ.
जीभ आणि लावली टाळ्याला म्हणतात
Lovely.
होय ना
Exactly. हाँ.
बोलणारे फार असतात करणारे
हो.
फार कमी असतात होय ना
एकदम.
So therefore, unless we are like a yogi sitting in the Himalayan cave who's disconnected from the world, how much would we even trust a person who says, I don't go through these emotions, they don't occur to me? You know,
हाँ.
I wouldn't believe anybody who says it doesn't happen to me. Correct?
Hmm.
It's inhuman.
Yeah.
They probably come from Mars then. Some extraterrestrial being.
Without the feelings.
But even Amir Khan felt it in PK.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do not think that that's possible for human beings. Correct? Yes, spiritually one can reach that state. I definitely agree to that. But that's the perfect state, Aditi. When one reaches that perfect state, then you may not be able to, you won't get affected, right? But is there anybody who has reached that perfect state? If you ask me, I don't see anybody in the world today, right? I respect their stage. They're evolved, very highly evolved. But to say that they are completely perfect, I'm not too sure, you know? So which basically means, yes, those emotions come in my mind as well, right? And the beauty of practicing spirituality for 25 years is that you're able to identify, catch, and sense them quickly, very quickly.
Come out of it
Very,
quickly. Yeah.
yes. Number one, you can even see that it's happening. For a lot of people, they can't even see what's happening.
They don't understand. Yeah.
So it's quick and easy to identify that. And number two, with the spiritual knowledge, the wisdom, the practice, the tools that we have, then to be able to deal with it becomes much easier. So the bounce back time is quicker, right? You can bounce back very quickly from that negative state. But to say that you don't feel negative, oh, I'm sorry. I don't think anybody lives in the world who doesn't go through those ups and downs internally.
That's what it is. So that's what I say, that, people ask doctors, right? That, oh, you're a doctor, so you must be falling ill. But if you see today, I mean, there are so many doctors who've lost their lives, unfortunately, because of this pandemic.
Sad,
So it's
sad,
not,
yeah.
it's extremely sad, yes. But that is how
But
life
thank you so much, Aditi, for having me over. It's 7:30, just a minute to go for an hour. Instagram
I
will
know,
shut us down.
I'm so,
I
know
have
I'm
to
aware of
thank
the
you.
time.
Profuse thanks. Profuse thanks
That,
for having me over for this conversation.
No, but one last message to all our viewers and we'll wrap up. But thank you
Yes.
very much for accepting my invitation to come on Talks and
So
sharing
great.
your journey and
So grateful.
humanizing the gurus or the spiritual people, because otherwise it's just so overwhelming.
Yeah. So
So,
my
one
last
last
one,
message to
yes,
all?
yes. My last message is we don't have our ringtones in the default setting. We don't have our pizza toppings in the default setting. We don't have our clothes in the default size. Why do we live our life in the default setting? Customize your life. Don't live it in the default mode. And customization is about making the right choices. So that's my take on that.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you so
Thank you
much for
very
this
much again.
precious words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.